I was still happy as I drove away from the prenatal clinic, my belly slightly showing under a thin sweater. Today, the doctor said the baby was healthy, heartbeat steady like a little drum, and I smiled, picturing the day I'd get to hold my child. But before heading home, I decided to stop by Costco to pick up some yogurt. I walked past the towering shelves, not knowing that in the very next second, a moment would collapse the entire world I had built. I froze, my hand still clutching the shopping basket. In front of the checkout counter, surrounded by a swarm of moms fighting over discounted organic eggs, there he was. Robert Carter, my husband, the man even his industry peers called the cold CEO, with that sharp gaze and arrogant posture, like the world owed him a bow. But now he was just standing there, his bespoke suit wrinkled, the usually neat curls in his hair now a mess, clutching 2 cartons of eggs like they were treasure. He didn't see me. He didn't see anything except the crowded line and the glowing 20% off sign above. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I must be seeing things. The man who stood in a conference room this morning, voice thundering as he commanded the executive team, was now elbowing through middle-aged aunties to save a few dollars. A chill ran down my spine. I took out my phone, my finger circling the screen before pressing his number. "Where are you right now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. On the other end, his tone dropped, almost a whisper. "I'm in a meeting at the office." "Let's talk later," I let out a dry laugh, my lips curling but without a hint of joy. "All right," I said, and hung up. No explanation, not a single question in return. I turned around and walked straight to the underground parking lot, each step landing on the shattered pieces of my trust. In the trunk, I found a golf club. Without hesitation, I lifted it and slammed it into the side mirror of his shiny black Mercedes-Benz. The sound of shattering glass rang out, sharp and clean, like it sliced through every illusion I had clung to. On the way home, I called my best friend, my voice strangely steady as I recounted the whole story. "I want a divorce," I said, without hesitation. On the other end, she was stunned, practically yelling, "What did you say? Just because Robert fought over some discounted eggs, you want a divorce?" I took a deep breath, eyes fixed on the shards of glass sparkling under the parking garage lights. "Yes," I answered, "because he fought over discounted eggs. And not just divorce. I'll make sure he doesn't walk away with a single cent from this marriage." But Emily still refused to believe it, her voice doubtful over the phone. "Maybe there's some explanation for all this. Your husband Robert's famous for being totally obsessed with his wife." The rest of her sentence was drowned out by the piercing alarm of the Mercedes-Benz, blaring like an angry warning, echoing across the empty parking garage. I quickly hung up, hands trembling as I pulled my mask tightly over the lower half of my face, tugged the brim of my hat down to hide my eyes, and slipped swiftly into my car. The alarm kept screaming, bouncing off the concrete walls, making my heart pound like a war drum. I fixed my gaze on the elevator doors, every second dragging on like forever. Around 10 minutes later, Robert finally appeared, stepping out in a rush, his high-end suit still wrinkled just like before, clutching 2 large cartons of eggs to his chest, his other hand holding an overstuffed shopping bag where a few fresh green leaves and a pristine white package of sanitary pads peeked through the thin plastic. He glanced around, face slightly pale under the harsh neon lights, then hurried toward his car, fumbling for his keys in his pocket. Right behind him, a young girl followed, her steps light but timid. I looked carefully through the rearview mirror, reflecting the glass window, and my chest tightened. The girl was skinny, her face still childlike, long black hair tied in a simple ponytail, big, round, innocent eyes, clearly no more than 15 or 16. Robert was only 28 this year. How could he have a child that old? Then, a chill crawled up my spine, making me shiver, my throat dry. Having a mistress wasn't enough. He was going after a child now? That was worse than an animal. I swallowed the rising wave of disgust, quickly pulled out my phone, snapped a few photos, fingers clicking rapidly, then started the engine and drove off, the soft rumble like an angry whisper. Less than 30 minutes after I got home, Robert walked in beaming, his eyes lighting up when he saw me sitting on the sofa. He walked straight over and playfully pinched my cheek, the same affectionate gesture as always, but now it made me freeze. "Where'd all that strength go, breaking the side mirror earlier?" "Now you're all quiet?" he joked, lips curled into a half smile, as if the whole thing had just been some childish game. That supermarket belonged to Carter Tech anyway, so of course they figured it out fast. It wasn't surprising. I turned away, not bothering to answer, lips pressed tight, eyes fixed on the glossy floor. Robert followed suit, crouching down and grabbing my hand, flipping it back and forth to inspect it carefully. His warm fingers brushed against my skin, checking every little scratch. "You even smashed the mirror. That must have taken some force, huh? Did you hurt your hand?" His voice sounded genuinely worried, his brows furrowed, eyes scanning my palm like he was trying to spot some invisible injury. Seeing his worried face, a flicker of guilt stirred in me, like a warm stream breaking through layers of ice. We'd been married 5 years. He'd always pampered me. Forget breaking his car window. Even if I tore down his whole company, he'd probably still only care about whether I hurt myself. But that thought vanished just as quickly, choked out by that earlier lying phone call, making me bite my lip, trying to hold back a sigh. Seeing my silence, Robert gave me a sheepish smile, lips pressed together, like he was trying to hide his worry, his voice soft. "That girl's a student I've been helping. Her name's Jessica Evans. Her parents passed away early. She lives with her grandma Evelyn. Today she came to the city to collect her education support fund, and I invited her to lunch since I was heading that way. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd be sensitive during pregnancy. If you don't believe me, tomorrow I'll take you to her grandmother's house so you can see for yourself. In my heart, there's only you and our baby. There's no room for anyone else." Looking into those sincere eyes, his deep black gaze meeting mine without flinching, guilt surged again like a rising tide. Thinking back to the scene at the supermarket, he and the girl really did seem more like an adult taking care of a child. His protective gestures weren't shady at all. That's right, Robert had never lied to me before. Maybe it was just pregnancy hormones making me overly suspicious, reading into something that wasn't there. The fire inside me melted more than halfway. I leaned into his arms, my head resting against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions," I whispered softly, my fingers clutching his shirt. He patted my head, his indulgent voice whispering into my ear. "As long as you know you were wrong. But if you ever smash my car window again, then what?" I looked up and pretended to glare, trying to act upset, but my lips were already curling. Robert dragged out the last word, suddenly leaning into my ear, his hot breath making it turn red, my scalp tingling. "Then you'll be punished by having to wear that black lace lingerie for me." My face instantly flushed. I quickly shoved him, my hand pressing against his firm chest. That was the ridiculous outfit he bought behind my back, barely even a piece of clothing, and I'd never worn it once. He grabbed my hand and pulled me into his arms, chuckling low and deep. the vibration echoing through his chest. "Who told you to make me mad?" Of course, there has to be punishment. We rolled around laughing on the sofa, our laughter echoing through the quiet living room, washing away the heavy tension from earlier. After laughing to our heart's content, I rested in his arms, silently scolding myself for being paranoid. His breath warmed my hair, carrying the familiar scent of his cologne. Robert got up and walked into the kitchen, his steps light, and he turned to smile at me warmly. Just as he stepped in, the phone he had left on the table lit up. A strange message appeared, stabbing straight into my eyes like a sharp blade, the white letters flashing on a black background, blurring my vision for a moment. "Have you calmed your little wife down yet? The omelet's ready, I've showered, just waiting for you to come eat." Eat what? The omelet? Or that woman? My chest felt like it had been stuffed with a heavy, wet lump of cotton, suffocating, making it impossible to breathe. The air in the room suddenly turned thick, my hands clenched into fists, trembling as I picked up the phone, icy fingers shakily typing into my chat with Emily, each keystroke feeling like a massive effort. Help me check Robert's recent schedule, especially anything related to a girl named Jessica Evans. The moment I hit send, the kitchen range hood fell silent. Robert came out drying his hands, glanced at his phone nonchalantly, his eyes flicking across the screen without a care, then tossed it back onto the table with a soft thud, like it was nothing important. "Honey, something urgent came up at work. I need to step out for a bit," he said, his voice steady, but his eyes avoided mine, lips pressed tight as if trying to hide the urgency. On any other day, I would have told him to hurry so he wouldn't miss anything, my voice cheerful and supportive. But today, my throat locked up, like an invisible hand was gripping it tightly. I struggled to squeeze out a sentence, my voice trembling. "Do you really have to go? You promised you'd be with me every time I had a prenatal checkup." Robert paused for a moment, then bent down to kiss the top of my head. His lips touched lightly, but were cold. "Don't make a fuss. I'll be back soon," he said, still using that affectionate tone, but it felt forced. Then he rushed into the bedroom. He grabbed his sleek black briefcase, yanked the zipper in a hurry, and got ready to leave. As he passed by me, the zipper swung, accidentally revealing a familiar strip of black lace. The delicate fabric peeking out under the living room light, an intricate pattern I recognized instantly. It was the lingerie he once gave me, a secret gift he'd handed over with a sheepish grin. Before I could look more closely, the door slammed shut with a loud bang. Robert was in such a rush, he didn't even say goodbye. I felt like my bones had been sucked out of my body. I stumbled into the bedroom, tripping over my own feet, my knee slamming into the sharp corner of the bed. Pain radiated outwards, but I didn't feel it. The pain in my chest was swallowing everything. I pulled open the bottom drawer of the wardrobe, my hands shaking. The velvet box was still there, its surface soft under my fingers. But when I opened it, it was empty. That black lace lingerie, of course, it was gone. My stomach turned. I gripped the wardrobe tightly, then dry heaved. My tears rolled down my cheeks before I even noticed. What kind of date requires a man to bring sexy lingerie with him? What kind of date, indeed? The answer didn't even need to be said. My phone buzzed, yanking me out of the chaos. Emily's voice came through the speaker, hesitant, as if weighing every word. "I did some digging. It's weird. Her teachers and classmates say Robert often shows up at school, attends parent meetings, picks Jessica up, really cares about her. But no one knows what their relationship actually is. Everyone assumes they're relatives." "Relatives," I repeated instinctively, my voice cracking. 1,000 questions exploding in my head like firecrackers. What kind of relative makes a busy CEO personally do school drop offs? What kind of relative is worth him skipping my doctor's appointment, fighting for discounted eggs in a crowded supermarket? This wasn't concern like he said. It was reverence, carefulness, like he was holding something precious in the palm of his hand. I opened social media, about to search Jessica Evans, but before I could type, the homepage showed a suggested live stream. Her profile picture right there. The title said, TikTok Live Study Session. Without thinking, I clicked in. The screen lit up, pulling me into a world I didn't want to see. Jessica was lying on a desk, doing homework in a small room with Taylor Swift posters on the wall. Looked like any ordinary teenage girl's room. She occasionally looked up to brush her hair aside, her eyes pure, her smile innocent, clearly still just a kid. I stared at the screen for 10 whole minutes, my heart pounding, but suspicion piled up like a boulder on my chest. How could a child like that make Robert lose all reason? Suddenly, Jessica got up to close the window. The camera angle shook. In that moment, a soft sound came from beyond the half-open door. She didn't turn off the live stream, just walked out of frame, leaving the screen empty. And then I saw Robert step into the frame. My heart stopped. He took off his blazer, his tie loosened around his neck, exactly how he looked when he left home. His hair slightly messy, eyes warm. Then he leaned in and hugged a woman tightly, arms wrapped around her like he never wanted to let go. The camera only caught the woman from an awkward angle. She was in a loose loungewear set, long hair cascading down, hiding her face. Robert lowered his head, his eyes full of longing, then kissed her, slowly, deeply, like nothing else in the world existed. Jessica seemed to realize something, quickly ran over and turned the phone to face another direction, her face flushed red, fingers nervously twisting her shirt hem. She sat down in front of the camera, giving a shy smile and murmured, "That was just my parents." "They're always like that, super lovey-dovey." I stared at the screen, the taste of blood flooding my tongue, bitter and sharp. Jessica twirled a pen between her fingers, her voice proud like a child showing off. "My dad loves my mom so much. He takes me to school every day himself, and on weekends he takes her shopping. No matter how busy he is, he always says family comes first." She paused for a second, her eyes curved like crescent moons, like she'd remembered something cute. "My mom has stomach problems, so he learned to cook for her." He adjusts the sweetness to her taste. Every day, he even washes her underwear by hand, super carefully, cleaner than any dry cleaner. And he massages her feet, too. Every word, every sentence, was a frozen steel needle stabbing into my heart, shredding every illusion I had left. Suddenly, I remembered when I was 6 months pregnant, nauseous all the time. I curled up on the couch, tugging on Robert's sleeve, begging for a bowl of chicken soup he'd made. He frowned and pulled away, his voice gentle, but clearly out of patience. "I don't know how to cook." "Call Chloe, the housekeeper, or order takeout," I refused. Kept shaking his arm, insisting he make it himself. Eventually, annoyed, he made up an excuse and retreated to his office to take a call, leaving me alone. I drifted off to sleep waiting, and that bowl of soup never came. And the underwear? In 5 years of marriage, he never touched any of my personal items, never did laundry, never massaged my feet, never paid that kind of delicate attention to me. But for that woman, he did everything, all the small gestures of love I had always yearned for. Jessica kept talking, her voice light and innocent. "Dad says if you love someone, you have to show it through actions. What's the point of just saying it?" He even wrote Mom a whole stack of love letters and promised that once I get into college, he'll take the whole family to Hawaii. Tomorrow's the weekend again. It's their weekly date night. I couldn't take another word. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the sofa with a heavy thud. So Robert had a whole other side I never even knew. He'd go into the kitchen for another woman, wash her most intimate clothes, write her love letters full of sweet promises. And what did I get? Just a diamond necklace tossed at me, pampering bought with money, a sprinkle of gentleness given only after he'd dominated the business world. That whole night, Robert didn't come home. I sat curled up on the sofa. Outside the window, dried leaves soaked in night dew curled under the early morning sun. Like my heart, shredded apart and then left out to dry, leaving behind only cracks that could never be mended. The phone lit up and went dark again, its screen flashing meaningless notifications, but I didn't send him a single message. My eyes were glued to the wedding photo on the wall. Robert in a crisp suit, his arm around my shoulder, his smile soft and warm like sunshine. Back then, I naively believed I was the happiest woman in the world. But now, I realized I was nothing more than a cat he kept in a glass cage, something he played with on a whim, tossed scraps of affection at, and left behind whenever he pleased. At 6 a.m., as sunlight crept through the curtains, I dialed his number, my icy fingers trembling on the screen. Carter! My voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping together. The results from yesterday's prenatal checkup. The doctor said there might be something wrong. He wants me to come in again today. Every word felt like stabbing myself in the chest, but I waited, hoping. Just a flicker of it. On the other end, there was a pause, followed by the soft rustle of fabric, like he was hastily straightening his clothes. My heart pounded, my chest tightened with pain. Robert, if you'd just say you'd come home, if you'd just try to explain, even a blatant lie, maybe I could still fool myself one more time. After all, I was carrying the child we had once longed for together. But then his voice came, calm and cold. I've got a meeting at the company today. I can't leave. Let the driver take you. If anything happens, call me immediately. Not a word of concern, not a hint of hesitation, not even a, what's wrong? I gripped the phone. The sharp pain radiating outward couldn't compare to the agony tearing through my chest. The tears finally came, spilling down my cheeks, breaking into tiny fragments as they hit the floor. Okay, I replied, my voice trembling on the verge of collapse, then forcefully hung up. I wiped my face, but the more I wiped, the more the tears came, like everything I'd been holding back was now flooding out uncontrollably. But what good was crying? Tears couldn't mend what had already broken. They couldn't erase the image of Robert holding that woman, couldn't bring back the promises that had already turned to ash. I called Amanda, my best friend, my voice still choked. Come with me, to the mall. I need to see it for myself. Amanda didn't ask questions, just replied simply, give me 10 minutes. We drove to the mall in the city, the place Jessica once called the sacred date spot for Robert and her mom. The air buzzed with life, people talking and laughing, music playing through the speakers, all blending together. Amanda walked beside me, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd, while I, like a broken radar, was just desperately searching for him. On the third floor in the women's section, I froze, feet nailed to the ground. There he was. Robert, no longer in the cold, tailored suit of a CEO, but in a pale blue shirt, casual jeans, his side profile soft, his eyes gentle. But when my gaze landed on the woman next to him, my heart stopped, my chest clenched in unbearable pain. I had imagined her to be young and seductive, but the woman before me was nothing like I'd expected. She looked around 40, wearing a faded ivory blouse, her hair neatly tied back, no makeup, holding a simple canvas bag. Standing next to Robert, the man who always cared about appearances, she looked more like his mother than his lover. But the way Robert looked at her, the way he handled her, wasn't the care of a son. It was deference, adoration, like she was the center of his universe. He knelt down in front of her, one hand gently holding her ankle, the other carefully slipping on a new pair of flats. His movements were slow, meticulous, like he was cradling something sacred, his fingers gliding across her skin, eyes looking up at her with reverence. The woman smiled, said something softly, and Robert immediately looked up to respond, his lips curling into a fawning smile, his eyes full of devotion. Amanda gritted her teeth beside me, her voice hissing through clenched jaws. "What the hell is this? When has he ever lowered himself like that for you? He's ditching you and the baby for her?" I didn't answer. My eye sockets burned like they were on fire. At work, people bowed to Robert, and even me, his wife of 5 years, never once had him kneel in public to put shoes on my feet. Whenever we were out together, all I got were polite nods, gentle arm brushes he quickly dismissed, because he said, "I'm the CEO of Carter Tech." I have to maintain my image in public. Back then, I stupidly thought it was professionalism, that only I got to see his softer side in private. Now I understand. He never once lost control over me. I grabbed Amanda's arm, my voice trembling with the edge of a sob. "Go to customer service. Tell them there's a missing child on the 3rd floor. Ask them to pull all the security footage from this level, start to finish." Amanda paused, her brows furrowed. "What for?" I stared straight at Robert's figure, my eyes locked on him as he wrapped his arm around the woman's waist, both of them stepping into the dress shop. Their bodies pressed so close together, it was more intimate than any new couple. "Evidence," I said, my throat tightening like someone was choking me. "Proof, so I can kick Robert out with nothing left in his hands." Amanda gave a firm nod and ran off, her footsteps steady and determined. And I stayed hidden behind a pillar, my heart aching as I watched Robert smile so brightly beside that woman. Right then, a loud crash thundered above our heads. A towering shelf collapsed, metal slamming into the stone floor with a deafening echo, and the panicked screams of the crowd surged like a wave. Before I could react, Amanda yanked my arm hard, pulling me backward. The force made me stagger, my heart pounding like it was about to burst out of my chest. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Robert throw himself toward that woman, his entire body curling like a human shield, using his back to protect her. The shelf came crashing down on him with a sickening thud, but he didn't make a sound, only gritted his teeth and trembled from the pain. "Are you okay?" He looked up, his voice shaking with concern, his eyes filled with nothing but her image. The back of my hand was cut by a piece of the shelf, blood oozing between my fingers, warm and metallic. But that pain was nothing compared to the tear that was ripping my heart apart. Robert helped her back to safety, his hand gripping hers tightly, every step urgent but cautious, and when he turned around, his eyes finally caught sight of me, standing there, pale and frozen. A flash of panic flickered in his eyes, his brows tightened, and then he immediately pulled the woman toward the emergency exit, his steps quick, almost like he was running away. People began to gather around, whispers spreading, curious eyes turned toward them, and then I raised my voice, letting it ring out across the chaos. "Honey, what are you doing here?" I called out deliberately, clutching my belly beneath the thin sweater, staggering forward. "My stomach hurts. I think it might be affecting the baby." My voice cracked, my hand rubbed my stomach, tears rolling down my cheeks. For a moment, the crowd fell silent. The air turned heavy. All eyes were now on the two of them. Robert's face changed, from pale to ashen. His hand, which had been gripping the woman's waist, loosened slightly, his fingers trembling like he was trying to hide his panic. Only then did I pretend to finally notice her, tears streaming down, my voice shaking with grief. Who is she? Didn't you say you had a meeting? So why are you here, shopping with her?" Each word was an accusation. I pointed at her, my body swaying as if I was about to collapse. Robert's face turned even paler. Instinctively, he pulled the woman behind him to shield her, then quickly stepped toward me. Reaching out to support my waist, his voice urgent but trying to stay calm. Honey, don't get emotional. The doctor said your emotions can't fluctuate too much. His fingers brushed my shoulder, but I immediately stepped back, avoiding him, my body trembling from anger and pain, my eyes still locked onto the woman behind him. You still haven't told me who she is! The whispers grew louder. The murmurs swelled like a swarm of bees. Someone had already raised their phone to record. The red light blinked, shining directly on Robert's face, making sweat bead on his forehead. He rushed to speak, his voice stammering. She's a new assistant I just hired. We happen to be heading the same way, so we came here to get some office supplies. His words were forced. It was obvious. I let out a bitter laugh, the kind that shook my whole chest. Tears poured harder, hot against my cheeks. My voice rang out with biting sarcasm. A personal assistant? Robert, do you think I'm blind? How many assistants have you had? Have I not met all of them? Since when do your assistants wear cheap shirts, carry canvas bags, and have you kneeling to put shoes on them? Each sentence slapped across his face. I pointed at the woman, my body shaking from emotion, the crowd's murmurs rising louder with little snickers mixed in. Robert's face flushed red, then drained of color. He stammered. You're misunderstanding, But suddenly, the woman behind him stepped forward. Her face was flushed with fury, her eyes full of grievance and rage, her voice slicing through the noise like a knife. Who are you calling your new assistant? Robert? Who was the one clinging to me back then? Who begged me to stay? Who promised to marry me? And now, in front of your wife, you want to pretend I'm no one. She pointed a trembling finger at him, her voice rising and echoing across the space. As soon as she finished, the crowd erupted. The murmurs turned into out-loud commentary. So she's not the assistant? She's the mistress? But she looks old enough to be his mom. Wow, this CEO's taste is really something else. The sound of cameras clicking became frantic. Flashbulbs popped non-stop, hitting Robert's face so fast he had to blink repeatedly. He quickly reached to pull her back, his voice urgent. Don't say nonsense! That's not what happened between us. He gripped her arm, trying to pull her away, but she yanked free and pulled out her phone from her canvas bag. She raised it high, photo on display. This was last month. He took me on vacation. He said once his wife gave birth, he'd file for divorce. And now he's denying it? In the photo, Robert wore casual clothes, his arm around her shoulder, both of them smiling intimately. So it wasn't just lies. He had been planning to abandon me and the baby all along. The crowd grew louder, people speaking up. What kind of man does this? Cheating while his wife's pregnant? The woman wasn't finished. Her voice rose again. Robert, you'd better give me an explanation today. Either you tell your wife the truth now, or I'll spill everything, and Carter Tech stock will crash to rock bottom. Robert stood frozen, face ghost white, eyes darting between the angry woman, the crowd filming with their phones, and me, his tearful, betrayed wife. He hesitated for a few seconds, then suddenly shoved the woman aside and rushed toward me, hand outstretched. Honey, let me explain. I made a mistake, just once. His voice pleaded, his body lunging like he wanted to hold me, but I turned deliberately, bolting toward the emergency exit. I don't want to hear it. You lied to me. Behind me, Robert shouted desperately, Don't run! Be careful! His footsteps grew louder, slamming against the stone floor, but I ran faster. My heart was pounding. I knew he wasn't chasing me out of love. He just didn't want me to explode in public and cost him his reputation. The emergency door swung open with a loud metallic clang. In the damp, echoing stairwell, I leaned against the cold concrete wall, gasping for breath. His footsteps stopped just behind the door. His voice rang out, breathless and tense. Stop hiding! Can we just talk? He pushed open the door, his figure emerging under the dim neon light, face drenched in sweat, eyes filled with panic. I didn't answer. I only bit my lip, holding back the sob rising in my throat, tears rolling down silently. This performance, I had to see it through all the way. Until he paid, piece by piece. Finally, I spoke, my voice hoarse from crying. Robert, what exactly do you want to say to me? Do you want to talk about how you lied to me about going to a meeting, but actually went dress shopping with her? Or maybe about how you were planning to wait until I gave birth, and then divorce me to marry that woman? He was at a loss for words, took 2 steps forward, then stopped. Baby, she forced everything on me. I never truly thought about divorce, he said, voice trembling, eyes darting away, but still trying to get closer to me, as if wanting to pull me back into his arms. I clutched my belly, slowly straightening up, intentionally leaning on the wall, swaying like I was about to fall. Seeing that, he panicked and lunged forward, reaching out to catch me, eyes wide with worry. I messed up. I really did. I'll cut her off immediately, he said, voice urgent, his hands gripping my shoulders tightly. I leaned into his chest, letting my full weight press against him, lowering my head, my voice choked and weak. Carter, you're all I have left. When you started your business, I gave you every cent my parents left me. I never asked for anything in return. And now that I'm pregnant, how could you treat me like this? Each word was a needle, driving deeper into him. I could feel his arms tighten around me, his breathing heavy, burdened with guilt. I'm scum. I did you wrong. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Just don't leave me and the baby, he whispered, gently stroking my hair like he was trying to comfort both me and himself. Yes, this was the line I'd been waiting for, the promise I needed to set my plan into motion. When we got home, I didn't mention his affair. I quietly tended to the wounds on his back from the falling shelf. No blame, no resentment, only tenderness. He held my hand tightly, eyes full of guilt, his fingers laced with mine, like he was afraid I'd vanish. Honey, once I get through this busy period, let's go on a vacation with the baby, he said, his eyes gleaming, like he was trying to paint a perfect future. I lowered my gaze and gave him a faint smile, lips curled but without warmth, and simply replied, Okay. But in my heart, I wanted far more than that. That night, as he slept soundly, his breath steady in the darkness, I opened my laptop and, using an anonymous account, uploaded the full video and audio from the shopping mall online. Robert's excuses, the woman screaming, the scene of him kneeling to help her put on shoes. It was all edited neatly, clearly, like a dramatic short film. Thanks to that previous TikTok live study session, Jessica Evans already had quite a few followers, and within moments, the internet exploded. The headline, Carter Tech CEO cheats with middle-aged woman while wife is pregnant, spread like wildfire on Twitter/X and TikTok. The hashtag cheating CEO climbed the trending charts. The comments furious. I've watched Jessica Evans' TikToks before. Thought she was just a sweet schoolgirl. Who knew her mom was the mistress? Disgusting. In the video, she even demands marriage. This is how to change your fate, huh? Jessica's livestream account was bombarded so badly it went offline. The poor girl panicked and disappeared from social media. But the more she hid, the more curious netizens became. Her school's address was exposed. Old photos of her, with her mom and dad, flooded the internet, accompanied by sharp, mocking captions. Bianca, the other woman, couldn't handle the pressure. Early the next morning, she dragged Jessica to block Robert at the entrance of Carter Tech headquarters. Her voice was filled with resentment as she confronted him. Robert, you lied to me. Divorce your wife now. Robert was swarmed by the mother and daughter, completely overwhelmed, coming home every day looking exhausted. His once crisp suit now wrinkled like he'd just come back from war. I sat nearby, made him a cup of honey water, set it down with a gentle clink, my fingers softly massaging his temples as I feigned concern. Honey, maybe you should meet with them and talk things through. Don't let this affect the company's stock. My lips curled into a soft smile, my eyes carrying a flicker of coldness he didn't notice. He gripped my hand, his eyes filled with gratitude, as if I were the only lifeline he had left. Baby, only you love me. Once I sort this all out, I promise I'll. But before he could finish, his private phone rang again. He glanced at the screen, face paling, and quickly threw on his jacket. Something came up at work. I have to take care of it, he mumbled, eyes avoiding mine. I didn't stop him, just reminded him gently, drive safe. Don't overwork yourself. He paused at the door, turned back to look at me, his gaze conflicted, brows furrowed, like he was struggling internally. But in the end, he said nothing, just a slight nod. Then the door slammed shut with a heavy thud. I walked to the window and watched his car disappear around the corner, the headlights flashing once before vanishing into the night. Then I opened my phone to check the news. The screen lit up with burning hot headlines. The hashtag cheating CEO, hashtag still climbing, and the comment section roared on like an endless storm, tearing apart every detail of Robert's scandal. When I told Amanda everything, she collapsed onto the sofa, clutching her head in both hands, her voice a mix of fury and helplessness. Are you out of your mind? You're still helping him. Weren't you the one who wanted a divorce, to take all his assets? Her eyes widened, blazing like she wanted to burn me down, her arms swinging in frustration, like I was a riddle she just couldn't solve. I leaned against the balcony railing, my gaze drifting over the stream of traffic below. What's the rush? I said slowly, almost whispering. You think those two will back off that easily? Bianca Rue had the guts to force him into marriage. Jessica proudly flaunted her mom and dad on TikTok. It's clear the two of them are ambitious, and they're not going to let go without a fight. Amanda froze, then jumped to her feet, stepping beside me, her eyes filled with suspicion. You mean they'll pressure Robert to divorce you? Her voice dropped, like she had just uncovered a dark secret. I turned to her, resting my hand gently on my belly, feeling the warmth of the unborn child inside me. Not just that, I said, my tone calm but filled with an unshakable resolve. They'll stir up so much chaos that he won't be able to contain it. On one side, you'll have the mother and daughter raising hell, dragging down his reputation, shaking Carter Tech's stock. And on the other side, there's me, the gentle, understanding wife carrying his child. Tell me, who do you think he'll choose? Amanda blinked, her lips parting slightly, as if the pieces of a perfect plan had just fallen into place. He'll choose you? She asked, half doubtful, half amazed, her fingers absent-mindedly running through her hair, eyes gleaming as she tried to picture the scenario I was painting. I gave a slight nod. He won't just choose me. He'll feel guilty, and when that moment comes, I'll say it's for the baby's sake that I need some security. Out of guilt, Carter Tech, the company we built together. He won't be walking away with a single cent. Amanda looked at me, her expression shifting from surprise to admiration, her lips curled into a faint smile. You're honestly terrifying, she said, shaking her head. But her tone was filled with agreement, like she had just found a comrade in a brutal endgame. I didn't answer. I simply turned back to watch the cars below. Why should I file for divorce and let them live happily ever after, when he's the one who shattered my heart? In the days that followed, Bianca and Jessica didn't just wait outside Robert's company every day. They went live, exposing every love letter, every gift he'd ever given them, even private, intimate photos, pictures of him holding Bianca's waist under a sunset, or Jessica beaming beside her mom and dad on vacation. They gushed about their beautiful love story, painting me as the wicked wife clinging to Robert with the child in my womb. Bianca's voice dripped with sarcasm during the live stream. She only knows how to throw money around. What Robert and I have is real love. The scandal exploded, and major shareholders demanded Robert make a public statement. Carter Tech's stock plummeted. His life grew more and more suffocating. Every night he came home reeking of alcohol, eyes bloodshot, his steps unsteady as he stumbled through the door, his once crisp suits crumpled and scattered across the floor. And me. I kept playing the understanding wife, taking care of him every day, making herbal tea and placing it gently on the table, rubbing his back as he curled up on the sofa. Sometimes, I'd drop a line, voice soft but tinged with emotion. The doctor said the baby isn't moving much today. Probably because I haven't been sleeping well. He would freeze, set the cup down, clutch my hands tightly, apologizing over and over, his voice raspy. It's all my fault. I've made you worry. His hands trembled, eyes filled with guilt, like every word I said was a knife twisting in his conscience. When everything hit its peak, when the scandal became a ticking time bomb, I moved on to the next step. I sat curled up by the front door, my face still streaked with tears, under the dim hallway light. A crumpled piece of paper sat beside my feet, the shaky handwriting dark and messy. The moment he walked in, he panicked, his face pale in the light. He rushed over, crouched beside me, his hand touching my ice-cold shoulder. "What happened?" His voice was frantic, breath heavy with alcohol. I shakily handed him the paper, my fingers gripping the wrinkled note, the bold letters glaring back. "Don't think having a baby means you'll keep Robert. Be careful, or you'll lose everything." My voice trembled, choked with fear. After my checkup this afternoon, I kept feeling like someone was following me, and when I got home, some strange man threw a rock with this note at the door and ran. I buried myself in his chest, my body shaking, my voice cracking. "Carter, do you think Bianca sent him?" "I'm really scared." Robert's face darkened like a storm cloud, but he still tried to soothe me, gently stroking my back. "It's okay. I'll take care of it." In the days after, I deliberately made it worse, talking about strange footsteps outside at midnight, rustling noises echoing through the dark hallway, anonymous packages with creepy contents, like a torn-up doll or threatening notes. I even had Amanda cut footage from street cameras to create a blurry silhouette, printed it out in grainy black and white, and showed it to him with a shaky voice. "I've seen this figure following me the past few days." Robert's nerves were stretched to the breaking point, juggling corporate chaos with nonstop calls and buzzing alerts, and now worried sick about me and the baby. His eyes grew darker by the day. That night, he sat on the sofa chain-smoking, the ashtray overflowing with yellowing cigarette butts, smoke thick in the living room, the burnt smell choking the air. I sat down beside him and sighed softly. He pulled me into his arms, his voice exhausted. "Sophia, maybe we should get a temporary divorce." I instantly turned to him, eyes wide in shock, voice sharp. "What did you say?" He lowered his gaze, gently stroking my belly. "Things have gotten so bad. Bianca won't back off. I'm afraid you'll get dragged into it. If we get divorced for now, I can transfer everything to your name, so they won't get a thing. After the baby's born, when it all dies down, we'll remarry, okay?" His voice grew quieter, eyes dull, as if locked in some internal struggle. I knew Bianca had dirt on him, how he siphoned money from the company to fund her and Jessica's secret vacations, the hidden invoices, the disguised transfers. That's why he put up with them, too scared to go to the police, afraid it would all unravel. In the end, he offered this solution. Exactly what I'd been waiting for. But still, a sting pierced my chest. I hugged him, letting the tears fall freely. He held me tighter. After a long silence, his eyes flickered, and at last he said, "Let's do it." The next day, the lawyer arrived with the divorce agreement. In it, 35% of Carter Tech's shares, 5 luxury apartments in different cities, 2 custom-made supercars, and all the bank savings. Everything was transferred to my name, Sophia Owens. Morning sunlight slipped through the curtains, casting a glow across the wooden table, making the numbers on the page almost shimmer, reflecting in my eyes, now free of tears. When it came time to sign, Robert held the pen, his fingers trembling, hesitating for a moment as his gaze fixed on my belly, where our unborn child stirred slightly. "Once I settle things with Bianca, we'll get remarried and start over," he said. I smiled and nodded. "Okay," I replied softly, my voice shaky, like a wife who still held on to hope. But in my head, A quiet voice whispered, "No, Robert. There will be no starting over. This is the end of everything." After signing, I carefully folded the agreement, slipped it into my handbag, my fingers gliding over the smooth paper like I was touching the final proof of victory. The heavy stone in my chest finally lifted, but I kept the same bittersweet look on my face, gently reminding him, "I'll be moving to another house today. Make sure you don't drink too much while you're home alone." I looked at him with soft eyes, as if I were still the devoted wife I had always been. While Robert took time off to take Jessica and her mother on a trip, trying to soothe the raging scandal, I quietly liquidated all the shares and properties. The buyer was an overseas fund I had already contacted in advance, and the process was discreet and swift. Each contract signed, each transaction completed, money flowed into my offshore accounts, silent and steady, like the final drops draining from the empire Robert thought he still controlled. By the time he realized it, everything was already done. All the assets under my name had been converted to cash, secure in places he could never trace. The day I left, sitting in the VIP lounge of the airport, I looked down at the wedding ring still on my finger, sparkling like a cruel reminder of the years gone by. My phone vibrated. His name lit up the screen. I answered. His voice burst through, furious. "Sophia Owens, where are the shares?" "The properties? You tricked me?" I stared out at the airplane beyond the glass, the white steel wings glinting in the sunlight. My voice came out calm, cold as winter wind. "You signed the agreement willingly. Besides, everything you gave me was what I always deserved." On the other end, I could hear things shattering, glass breaking, and a strangled scream, but I didn't bother listening. My finger slid across the screen. I hung up, switched to airplane mode. "Robert, I stood by your side for 5 years. From nothing, from nights sleeping on office couches, to the day you built a billion-dollar empire with skyscrapers bearing the Carter Tech name. I poured in sweat, tears, and every cent my family left me to build that kingdom. And now, I'm only taking back what was mine. I feel no guilt. As for you and Bianca, stay in that swamp together. Take your time and enjoy the price of betrayal, while I walk away, light as air, leaving behind a Robert Carter, with nothing but the ruins of everything he once had." When the plane landed, the soft roar of the engine blended with the rhythm of the sparkling waves outside the window. I rolled my suitcase out, and the gentle California sunlight wrapped around me like a welcome from freedom itself. I moved into the seaside villa I had already bought, where every morning I woke to the sound of waves whispering unspoken stories, and every afternoon I sat on the balcony, soaking in the golden sunlight, feeling the breeze dance across my skin. Life moved slowly, peacefully, like the repeating waves washing away old wounds. I went to a private hospital regularly for prenatal checkups. The nurse smiled gently while checking the baby's heartbeat. And during quiet afternoons, I sat with a therapist, slowly stitching back the broken pieces inside me until they no longer hurt. Amanda called on video every few days, her voice lively through the screen. The first time, she laughed so hard she slammed the table, her laughter echoing through the speaker. "You won't believe it! Robert's like a dog with its tail between its legs now. Bianca Rue blocks him every day, screams at him for money, and just announced she's pregnant, demanding he take responsibility." I rested my hand on my belly, feeling the baby gently kick, Amanda's laughter contagious, and I let out a soft chuckle. The baby stirred again, as if joining in on the joy. 2 weeks later, Amanda sent me a photo. In it, Robert stood outside the county courthouse in a faded dress shirt. Next to him, Bianca Rue with a visible baby bump, her face completely joyless, lips tight, eyes full of resentment. Amanda messaged, "They registered their marriage. See? There's no love left. Just pure hatred." I glanced at the photo, didn't bother to zoom in, then set the phone down and looked out toward the ocean, where the deep blue horizon melted into silver waves. Robert now was just a distant shadow, like a wave that had already crashed and disappeared, no longer tied to me in any way. By then, I was in the final stage of pregnancy, walking every day along the soft sand path by the shore. The nurse beside me, gently reminding me to breathe deep. My hand caressed my belly, feeling every move the baby made. When I thought of Robert, all I felt was gratitude. Not for love, but because I'd managed to escape the mess he created, managed to keep my freedom and protect my future. On the due date, I was wheeled into the delivery room, the sound of machines steady in rhythm with my heartbeat. Then came the cry, clear and piercing, like the first note of life itself. My daughter was born. The nurse brought her to me, tiny, eyes shut tight, lashes long and curled like butterfly wings, her skin soft and pink. I touched her cheek, my finger trembling, as if every pain from the past had turned into a breeze and drifted far away. The nurse smiled and asked casually, "She's so adorable. Where's the dad?" I held my daughter's hand, her tiny fingers wrapped tightly around mine. I smiled gently, my voice calm. "There's no dad. She's mine and mine alone." "That's right. I have a house by the sea, where waves sing me awake every morning. I have enough money in my account to shelter both of us through any storm. I have a healthy baby girl, whose eyes will soon open to see the world. And I have Amanda, my best friend, whose laughter rings through every video call. I held my baby close. No more shadows from the past. No more sharp-edged lies. Our life from now on would be peaceful, radiant like the sun over the ocean, untouched by any more sorrow. Freedom isn't about breaking chains. It's about choosing your path, gently and brilliantly, beside the things truly worthy of your heart.